when I was 17, there was a road outside my hometown called Black Hollow Road. Everybody knew about it, but nobody ever drove there after midnight. The stories about the place were endless. Some people claimed there was an abandoned town hidden deep in the woods. Others believed the government had shut the area down after a chemical spill sometime in the 1960s. Older people in town avoided talking about it altogether, which only made teenagers more obsessed with it. One October night, my friends and I finally decided to go looking for it. There were 4 of us: me, Ryan, Trevor, and Mason. Ryan was the one who claimed he knew where the entrance was. According to him, his cousin had found it while hunting. Around 1 a.m., we drove out toward Black Hollow Road in Trevor's old pickup truck. The deeper we drove into the woods, the quieter everything became. No streetlights, no houses, no traffic, just darkness. Eventually, Ryan pointed toward a rusted chain-link gate hidden behind overgrown trees. "That's it," he said. There was a faded warning sign hanging from the gate, but most of the letters had worn away. Trevor laughed and pushed the gate open. We drove another half-mile before the trees suddenly cleared, and there it was, an entire abandoned neighborhood. Not ruins, actual houses. Street signs still stood near the sidewalks. Some homes even had curtains hanging in the windows. It looked like families had simply disappeared overnight. Nobody spoke for a solid minute. The place didn't feel abandoned. It felt paused. Trevor parked near what looked like an old grocery store. The second we stepped out of the truck, I noticed how cold it suddenly became. Not normal cold, the kind of cold that makes your chest tighten. Mason immediately wanted to leave. Ryan mocked him for being scared. We started walking through the neighborhood with flashlights. Most of the houses were empty, but a few still had furniture inside. One kitchen even had plates sitting on the table covered in decades of dust. Then we found the school. Its front doors were hanging open. Inside, papers covered the floor like snow. Lockers lined the hallway, many still closed. Ryan found an old basketball in the gym and bounced it once. The sound echoed through the building so loudly that we all jumped. That's when we heard the whistle. A single sharp whistle somewhere upstairs. We all froze. Trevor whispered, "Did you guys hear that?" Before anyone answered, another whistle echoed through the hallway, closer this time. Mason immediately started panicking, insisting someone else was inside the school. Ryan still thought someone was messing with us. He shouted, "Hello?" Silence. Then, bang, classroom door slammed upstairs. Every instinct in my body told me to leave. Trevor wanted to go upstairs. For some stupid reason, we followed him. The second we reached the top floor, we saw movement at the end of the hallway. A person, tall, standing completely still. At first, I thought it was a mannequin or something. Then its head slowly tilted sideways. Mason screamed. The figure immediately stepped backward into one of the classrooms. Trevor ran toward it. The rest of us followed. But when we reached the classroom, it was empty. No windows, no other exits, nothing. That's when Ryan noticed something written on the chalkboard. "You should not be here." Every single one of us saw it. None of us had written it. Suddenly we heard footsteps running down the hallway outside the classroom. Heavy footsteps. Fast, coming toward us. We sprinted. I've never run that fast in my life. The footsteps kept following us all the way downstairs. The second we burst outside, Trevor stopped dead in his tracks. Someone was sitting inside the truck, a silhouette in the driver's seat. We couldn't see its face. It was just sitting there motionless. Then the headlights suddenly turned on by themselves. Mason lost it completely and started screaming. The figure slowly turned its head toward us. Trevor unlocked the truck from his keys and the horn suddenly blasted loudly. The silhouette disappeared instantly, gone. We jumped into the truck and sped out of the town so fast we nearly crashed into the gate on the way out. None of us spoke during the drive home. Years later, I tried finding the place again. Black Hollow Road still exists, but according to every map I've checked, there was never any town there. When I was in college, I worked night security at a nearly abandoned motel outside Phoenix, Arizona. The motel was old even back then. Most nights, we only had 3 or 4 occupied rooms. The owner mainly kept the place running because truck drivers occasionally stopped there overnight. I hated the job. The hallways smelled like mildew, the lights flickered constantly, and strange noises echoed through the walls every night. The worst part was room 214. Every employee avoided it. At first I thought it was just another ghost story people told to scare the new guy. Then one night, I learned why. It was around 2:30 a.m. when the front desk phone rang. A woman's voice whispered, "There's someone in my room." I immediately checked the computer. The call came from room 214. The problem was, nobody was supposed to be staying there. I grabbed the master key and went upstairs. The hallway lights buzzed softly above me. When I reached the door, I knocked twice. No answer. I knocked again. Still nothing. Finally, I unlocked the door. The room was empty. The bed was perfectly made. No luggage. No signs anyone had entered. I was about to leave when I noticed the bathroom light was on. The door stood slightly open. I slowly pushed it wider. Nothing inside. But written across the mirror in fogged letters were the words, "Don't let her see you." I immediately stepped back. That's when the bathroom door slammed shut by itself. I stumbled backward into the hallway. At that exact moment, the motel power went out. Complete darkness. And I heard footsteps. Slow footsteps walking toward me down the hallway. I couldn't see anything, only the sound. Step, step, step. I pulled out my flashlight with shaking hands and pointed it down the hall. A woman stood near the ice machine, tall, thin, wearing what looked like an old motel uniform. Her face looked wrong somehow, too pale, too still. The flashlight flickered once, and she was suddenly closer. I froze completely. Then she smiled. Not a normal smile, wide, unnaturally wide. The hallway light suddenly came back on. The woman vanished instantly. I ran downstairs and told the owner everything. Instead of acting surprised, he just stared at me quietly for a few seconds. Then he said, "You saw her too." The next morning I quit. A few months later, the motel shut down permanently. To this day, I still refuse to stay in roadside motels, especially if they have a room 214. My wife and I moved into our first house shortly after our daughter was born. The house wasn't new, but it was affordable, and the neighborhood seemed quiet. For the first few months, everything felt normal. Then the voices started. It began with the baby monitor. One night around 3 a.m., static woke me up. At first I thought it was interference. Then I heard someone whisper, "Can you hear me?" I sat straight up in bed. My wife was asleep beside me. The voice came again, very faint. "Hello?" I rushed into my daughter's room. She was asleep. Nobody else was there. I checked every door and window in the house. Locked. The next morning I convinced myself I imagined it, until it happened again. Over the next week, the baby monitor picked up strange noises almost every night. Whispering, breathing. Sometimes what sounded like distant crying. My wife finally heard it too. One night while we were listening to the monitor together, a woman's voice clearly said, "He's watching her." We both heard it. My wife immediately unplugged the monitor. The next day I bought a brand new one. For 2 nights everything was fine. Then around 2 a.m. the new monitor turned on by itself. Static filled the speaker. Then came the humming. Soft humming. Almost like a lullaby. I grabbed a baseball bat and ran to my daughter's room. Again, she was asleep. This time her bedroom closet door was open. I knew for a fact we had closed it earlier. As I stepped closer to the closet, the humming stopped. And something inside the closet moved, not loudly, just enough to make the hanging clothes shift slightly. I yanked the closet door open. Nothing there. It scratched into the back wall were the words, "Look under the bed." I nearly dropped the bat. My daughter suddenly started crying behind me. I slowly looked toward the bed. At first I saw nothing. Then I noticed the darkness underneath moving, like someone shifting slightly. I grabbed my daughter and ran out of the room screaming for my wife. We called the police immediately. They searched the entire house. Nobody was found. But one officer pulled me aside before leaving. He asked if we had checked the attic recently. I told him no. Apparently someone had been living up there. They found food wrappers, blankets, and empty water bottles hidden in the attic crawl space. But they never found the person. We moved out 3 weeks later, and even now, years later, I still can't sleep if I hear static at night.